Wow, people are talking about today's topic on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on social media. Facebook, it's EWTN Catholic Radio. Email us, take2@EWTN.com. We're on Twitter @Take2, the number 2 show. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgianni. Debbie, one of the great privileges that we have as Catholic Christians, of course even non-Catholics can participate to a certain point, is going to Mass and receiving the Eucharist. And today's topic is all about, we've titled it kind of playfully, Do You Know Where You Are on Sunday? But the whole idea, Deb, is do we know what's going on around us? Not just from a temporal, earthly, kind of sensual standpoint, but from a deeper spiritual standpoint. So I've really been looking forward to this program.
Me as well, Jerry. And I have to tell you that, like you said just at the introduction, that social media, we are hearing from you, dear listeners. You are sharing already your takes overnight about this topic, about going to Mass, and are we present during Mass? Are we participating? Are we distracted? What are the factors that play into our Sunday experience at Mass? And we want to hear from you. So we're going to ask you to call in. We know this. We when we were talking prior to the show start, we said, oh boy, the phone lines are just going to lit up fast. So, dear listeners, if you have a take on this about going to Mass, what it means to be at Mass, how you feel when you're at Mass, even if you're like bored at Mass, if the homilies bother you, if you tend to leave early during Mass, tell us why. Tell us all about your experience at 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, we always encourage you on this show and really a lot of other shows. Call early. Debbie and I, we get to the end of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie every day, and there are those of you on the line that we don't have time to get to. So love to have your takes. And again, what you share on this program is really you're ministering to your peers, your fellow listeners at 1-800-585-9396. We can talk about what you do to prepare for Mass. What do you do when your mind wanders at Mass? Debbie, it's kind of funny. My pastor is so transparent and down to earth. He shares sometimes. He shares from the pulpit. He says, sometimes even I get distracted. He says, I'll be up here reciting the prayers of consecration. And he says, one time he said, the thought entered his mind. He goes, I wonder what the average age of our ushers is. And another time he says, I think Thursday I have an 11 o'clock tee-off time. Right. Even our priests, Debbie, are prone to having these thoughts and distractions enter their minds. But let's talk for a minute, Debbie, about what's going on. We are at one and the same time at the foot of Calvary and in the Holy of Holies in heaven. When we're at Mass, we need to try to place ourselves spiritually in those environments, if you will.
Well, heaven touches down and it transcends time, and we are present. And it's an amazing experience because we know that the saints and the angels rejoice during Mass. We know that. We know we've heard this from throughout lives of the saints have told us that the altar is flooded with the heavenly realm. I mean, how amazing is that? Just think of that concept alone, that our heaven comes and just touches and connects with earth. I mean, absolutely beautiful. And Jerry, we said at the beginning of the show that the phone lines are going to lit up. I didn't think they were going to go this fast, but oh boy, you guys calling in super fast. It's almost like a pledge drive. It's going so fast. 1-800-585-9396. This is great because you have a passionate take on this subject about going to Mass and what it means to be at Mass. Now, dear listeners, we want to cover every angle. We have to move quick though, but we want to cover every angle. We want to hear, like what Jerry said about, his pastor getting distracted at times. That's human nature. We want to hear from you. Do you feel guilty after you get distracted? Or how about this? Do you get distracted and stay distracted? Or do you get distracted and kind of jolt yourself back into the present moment? What do you do when you get distracted? I mean, there's all sorts of angles we can learn and grow from this. We want to hear from you. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, I want to add, too, I've talked about my pastor before, Father Howard Lincoln at Sacred Heart Church in Palm Desert, California. He was simply he's so real and so human. That's why he shares these things that he goes through. I need to add, though, I have never experienced a priest more in love with the Eucharist and the consecration, and whose preaching was so, I mean, right on and just impacting on the Eucharist. So he's absolutely fantastic. But we want to hear from you about really just the spiritual, how we assist at Mass, and that word, Debbie, assist. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a reader or an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion or an usher or you take up the collection or something. The church has always said assisting at Mass, Debbie, in a sense, we assist the priest.
That's right.
That's why, one of those prayers says, your sacrifice and mine we offer to the Father. We've got to enter into that. And Debbie, I've heard it said before that one holy reception of the Eucharist would be enough to make somebody a saint.
Wow.
So
wow.
This is what's going on at Mass on Sunday. Do we appreciate that?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Jerry, when I was a youth minister many years ago, I used to share with the kids that there's one simple, and I call, dear listeners, I just want to say, I call everybody kids because I'm at an age now, I'm going to be turning 50 this year. I feel like I could be I feel like I could be everybody's mom at this point. So I just want to say that when I refer to somebody in their teens as a kid. But when I used to talk to the teens, I would ask them to make one simple word change in their statements when they talk about going to Mass. And they'd always call me Miss Deb, and they'd say, okay, Miss Deb, what is it? What is it? And I said, how many of you, and I had them raise their hands, how many of you say, I have to go to Mass? And almost all the hands went up. And I said, okay, I want you to change that to, I get to go to Mass. I get to go to Mass. And they looked at me like, wow, that kind of just sounds weird, but yeah, it makes sense. We get to go to Mass. It's a privilege. It's a beautiful gift. It's an honor to be there and to be part, like you said, Jerry, to assist and to participate. And you think about right now, even our Chaldean Catholic brothers and sisters who have to go into the underground to celebrate Mass, the priests have to go and have guards watch so that they're not going to be attacked during Mass. I mean, think about that for just a moment, dear listeners. That is unbelievable. We go to Mass. It's a kind of a joyous thing. We're wandering in. We're saying hi to our friends. We're waving, talking to people, and they are trying so desperately to celebrate the Mass and be feel in peace about it. Wow. I mean, this is a huge topic, and I can see the calls are coming in really fast. So there's one open phone line. I think I see it, 1-800-585-9396.
I always say the same thing, excuse me, that you do, Debbie, about on solemnities, when they say it's a holy day of obligation. I always say, no, it's a holy day of privilege. And I've also heard speakers said that they were talking to non-Catholics, for example, who would say to them, if what you believe is true about the Eucharist, or if I believed what you believe, I would crawl on my hands and knees to receive it. So, and again, it's not that we have to be canonizable to go to Mass and be so properly disposed and free of distractions and things. The idea really is just to try and get into a better disposition and make not only our reception of Holy Communion more fruitful, but our listening to the Word of God and the preaching by our priests and deacons and bishops and so much more. So we're going to get to our break right now, and as Debbie said, phone lines are just really ablaze right now. So is social media. We have a lot to share with you. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Do you know where you are on Sunday? The question has to do with when you're at Mass, do you realize you're at the foot of Calvary, you're in the heavenly realms? This is so vital to our spiritual lives as Catholics. We're going to talk about it and receive your takes when we come back.
"60 Seconds" with Mother Angelica.
You can be too generous. For example, if a man comes home with his paycheck and say he's just got $100, he's got 5 children, he's got rent, gas, and electric to pay, and he sees a poor man there, and he gives him the whole $100. And you say, oh, God's going to reward him. See, the gas and electric company aren't going to think that way. That man was too generous Now you say, well, how could he be too generous? He has his family to think about. He has his rent to pay. These are just debts and just obligations. Now he could have given part of that, but to throw away all of it is to use a virtue to an excess. Now you can do that with virtues. You can do that with any good thing.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Welcome back, dear friends, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. We're so glad you joined us today. This topic is just creating a stir with everyone. This is amazing. Phone lines are full, but as soon as we go to the phones, which we're going to in just a moment, after we're finished with the first call, there'll be an open phone line just for you. So 1-800-585-9396. We're talking about where you are on Sundays. Do you know where you are on Sunday? You know, where is your frame of mind? Where are you at? What is your focus? And that's what we're talking about today. So we're going to move right along. We're going to try to go fast with and try to get to everybody today because we really want to approach this from all different angles. So let's go to Kathy listening on Sirius XM 130 in New Hampshire. Hi, Kathy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you. I'm so excited to be able to speak to you guys. I have satellite radio, and I don't call in a lot, but this just really, it's awesome. As I get older, I'm 48, and the more I learn about what the Mass actually is, I actually get chills when the host is consecrated and held up. And now instead of asking for things when I'm there, I'm saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think a lot of people they don't understand. They may be Catholics their whole life, but they don't really understand the impact of it, what's happening, and that when we get that host, we are one with Jesus for that time period. And I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. My husband's not even Catholic, and he graciously goes to Mass with us on Sundays, and he's different when we leave. It's you haven't got the Eucharist, obviously, but the homilies and just everything about it it's learning. And the more I learn, the more we're obligated to learn about our faith. And EWTN, Dr. David Andrews, you guys, Mother Angelica, Father Mitch, I'm learning so much in reading. And the more I learn, the more, thank you, God, for bringing me back to the Catholic Church, because I went away for a long time. I just feel, I don't know, I say, why me? Why did he choose me? And that just shows you how much he loved each and every one of us that much. And it's not a Sunday would I miss. I would change a vacation so that I didn't miss Mass. That's how I feel. And that's all I wanted to say, but it's such an exciting topic.
I think, Kathy, you use two words that I think we all really should, in a sense, and those words are, why me? We all have family members, friends, loved ones who have been in the church, who have left, who've never been Catholic, don't really understand. Even a lot of non-Catholic Christians, they have, really close relationships with the Lord, through Scripture and going to their church services and praising and worshiping and so forth. There is no more intimate relationship with Jesus than we can have than to receive him in the Eucharist. And when we say, why me, it shouldn't be sort of a self-denigrating like, oh, Lord, why me? I don't deserve it. Yeah, none of us deserves it. But, Debbie, we have to realize we are worthy. There's a distinction there. We don't deserve anything, especially the Eucharist, but we are worthy of the Eucharist because, why? Jesus died to give it to us.
That's right. And Kathy, I just want to say welcome back home, and how beautiful you could hear the appreciation for our faith in your words, and it's so inspiring to all of us, and it's beautiful. And believe me when I tell you this, you sharing how much the faith means to you, and how your husband, who's not Catholic, I'm going to say yet, who's not Catholic yet, is changed by the Mass. How beautiful is that? I mean, that is inspiring to all of us, and it helps us grow in our faith. Kathy, you brought up so many things, and I just it's amazing because I've talk to a lot of Catholic radio listeners, and you sound so similar to the testimonies that come in about how Catholic radio helps to form all of us, and it just is there for us 24/7, and that is another thing that we want to take care of. And I always talk about this during pledge drives. It's a precious jewel in our midst, and if you had a precious jewel in your hands, you would take care of it. You would really treasure it, and that's why it's so important that we all participate in support of Catholic radio, of EWTN, and also our local Catholic radio stations, because we got to keep this strong and for future generations, because our kids deserve it. So, Kathy, I just want to say thank you. You blessed our day. You were the first call, and you led it off so beautifully. Thank you, Kathy.
God bless.
God bless you, Kathy. Next, we go to another Kathy, this one in Utah, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hello, Kathy in Utah. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, I liked how you said we get to go to Mass, because that adds to what I was thinking. I do look forward to going to Mass on Sunday and the liturgy and receiving the Eucharist and being with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get distracted from people conversing in the sanctuaries, and it seems to be increasing. So it keeps me distracted at times, and that kind of disappoints me. I think people forget that that is a sanctuary space, and if they can be respectful in there for Christ and for everybody, trying to communicate with Him, maybe people could step out in the vestibule and socialize.
Right.
So just that consideration, because I really do look forward to going to Mass and receiving the Eucharist and spending that time with Him, and if I could just be able to focus on that, it'd be so
Right.
much greater,
Kathy, I'm sure you probably do this already, but I always encourage people, because I used to do liturgy coordination and used to just help out with the different parts of the Mass. And I always encourage people that if you don't really want to get distracted by the human nature around you, I'm sure you sit close to the front. So I would definitely encourage that, is to, go in early before Mass and get to the front of the church, and so that you're not distracted by the commotion that's happening in the vestibule. I will tell you, though, that there are some churches, it is a sacred space and supposed to be, have that reverence. Absolutely. But there are some pastors that do allow and encourage a little bit of quiet fellowship happening in the vestibule area. And so depending on how your church is, designed by the pastor that is there, that also plays an issue too. Because I know, there's some churches here in Phoenix. Some you walk in, you can hear a pin drop, and others it's like a family reunion in the back of the church, and then when Mass starts, you could hear a pin drop. So I don't know if that helps, and I don't know if you do that already. But does that maybe give you some? I don't know.
Maybe. I've been in the whole range of what you described and in between, and usually it's unexpected. It's not like you can plan on it. But I think if people, the congregation in general just tries to focus a little bit better on the liturgy, and it's great that everybody gets to socialize and everything, but if they could just step out, especially after communion, it seems when it does happen, it occurs, or the rise of elongated communication occurs after Holy Communion. I guess those people are thinking they're going to be leaving soon. But that's the point when I'm trying to focus.
Yeah, Kathy, I want to share that.
On Jesus.
Absolutely. And at my church, we have just this incredibly good problem. If we don't, and we live in a very heavily snowbird area, so the population fluctuates, kind of like doubles during the winter and the opposite during the summer. So, but during actually year-round, people get there 45 minutes before Mass, 30 minutes before Mass. And during the winter, during the snowbird season, if you're not there about 30 minutes before Mass, you're going to be standing or, sitting off in a corner somewhere. But we have that problem at my parish, and too many churches, and it's not that bad at my church. Our pastor has put up signs, as you enter the actual church space, it says, please, respect sacred silence from this point on. But, people just, like Debbie said, it's like, what do they call it? The coffee klatch, and you're listening to people's life stories, and, they're using it as a time to get caught up, on everything that happened during the last week. And it's just not a place for that. And this is not to judge because, I'm sure I've been guilty of that myself. But anyway, Kathy, you make a great point. We're going to let you go on that because, as you can imagine, we've got still the phone lines are full, Debbie, and we want people to join us at 1-800-585-9396.
Wow, this is just an amazing topic, and we're learning and growing, and this is what Take Two with Jerry and Debbie is all about. So we just want to thank you, dear listeners. You drive this show. This is a peer ministry. We're doing this together, and we're all learning together. Wow. Okay, so can we move on to Mark in New Jersey? Jerry saved that for me, Mark, because I'm from Jersey, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Mark. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello.
Hello. Where are you from in New Jersey?
East Brunswick.
Oh, wow. I'm from West Caldwell.
Oh, okay. So, you know the area.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Great pizza. Great pizza. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
I thought you were going to say great people.
Yeah, and people. Yeah.
And people, right. We love going to Mass. The main part that I enjoy is communion because I feel that it brings me closer to Christ. The one aspect of the Mass that I don't like, and there's only one, is the shaking hands during the, offer each other the sign of peace because especially during the winter here, you get a lot of people with colds and the flu and they're coughing and sneezing, you can hear it, and then they extend their hand to you, and then what are you going to do? You have no choice but to shake their hand. So I wish they would change it to just say peace be with you to your neighbor rather than actually having to shake hands. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, Mark, I have to tell you, I'm a bit of a germaphobe, so I can relate because I try to, if you go to Georgiani.com, you'll see that I'm a health coach, and so I try very hard to stay very healthy, especially during the flu season, and so I can relate. I mean, I remember one time I was next to this most adorable little boy. And wouldn't you know it, right before the sign of peace, he started sneezing, and it was all over his hands everywhere. And I just thought, oh, my goodness, Lord, please help me because, I'm about ready to shake his little hand, and he was adorable. And yet I'm thinking, how quick can I get the sanitizer out of my purse? And I thought that would be rude, so I couldn't do that. And I totally understand, Mark. And wouldn't you know it, you know what I did? It was really funny. I thought, okay, Lord, I'm going to trust in you. I'm not going to worry about it. And this little boy, instead of shaking my hand, he actually gave me a hug. And it was so adorable. And I thought, okay, Lord, I get it. I get that I just have to trust because I didn't even have to touch his little hands that he just sneezed in. And but I can relate it. It is a difficult thing for a lot of people in this day and age when we are germ conscious and we want to have clean hands and not get sick and stuff. So I really don't know, Jerry, you're going to have to jump in because I don't know how to really answer that because it's part of our liturgy.
It is part of the liturgy, yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful part of the liturgy, actually, because I think my pastor mentioned recently how many times the word peace is mentioned during the liturgy. It's many, many times. Mm-hmm. But that sign of peace, I think I'd have to, maybe check on this, but, it might be related to that whole notion of if you've got something against your brother, settle that before you bring your gift to the altar. I don't know if that's connected, but it's just kind of like a way of us all saying we are united, we are at peace with one another, we have harmony between our brothers and sisters. So, Mark, we do have a break coming up, so we're going to have to get to that, but yeah, I just think it's something that, no one has to do any particular gesture during the sign of peace. I know I find that sometimes, when you reach out to shake somebody's hand, you're used to being greeted by, their hand coming in the other direction. And sometimes you kind of reach out and they don't reach out and you're kind of lunging, it's like you're almost falling over. I feel kind of silly. But anyway, Mark, that's a great contribution. So awesome to hear that you and your family love going to Mass to receive the Eucharist. I would say during the sign of peace, just maybe fold your arms in front of you, nod, and say, peace be with you. That's and what smile. A lot of people do.
Yep, absolutely.
800-585-9396. More of your calls coming right up.
Hi, Hi, I'm Kathy Sinnott, and I'm host of EWTN's Celtic Connections. From our studios in Ireland, we take a Catholic look at the big stories breaking in Great Britain, in Ireland, and across Europe. Celtic Connections is the only Catholic news show made in the UK or Ireland. So join me every Saturday and Sunday on Celtic Connections.
For dates and times in your area, log on to EWTN.com.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Mark Irons with an EWTN News Link. Employees at WDBJ-TV held a moment of silence today following yesterday's fatal shootings of reporter Allison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward. They were gunned down live on air by a disgruntled former employee who later shot and killed himself. President Obama heads to New Orleans today, marking 10 years since Hurricane Katrina. He'll be celebrating the city's revival, which suffered the worst of the storm's devastation. The Pentagon is investigating an allegation that intelligence reports regarding the fight against the Islamic State were distorted to exaggerate progress against ISIS. Black pastors and pro-life activists call for the National Portrait Gallery to remove its bust of Planned Parenthood founder and eugenics supporter Margaret Sanger. More than 11,000 people have signed a petition for that removal. I'm Mark Irons with your EWTN News Link. Join us this evening for EWTN News Nightly.
What's stopping you from becoming a Catholic?
Why can't women become priests?
I don't understand why I have to earn salvation.
How is it possible that God created everything?
Why do I need to confess my sins to a priest?
Why is the Catholic Church so unwilling to
The Catholic Church is too rich.
Catholics worship Mary and are committed.
As far as I'm concerned, all religions are equal.
You are called to communion with Dr. David Anders. Today, 2 p.m. Eastern, on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Thanks for tuning in to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about where are you on Sundays, and the phone lines are just lit up and social media is ablaze, and you are participating very well and sharing your takes. Just real quickly, if you heard the announcement during the break about Allison Parker and Adam Ward, 24-year-old Allison Parker and 27-year-old engaged to be married Adam Ward, who died in the shooting in Virginia. Please continue to pray for the repose of their souls, and to also for their families and the fiance of Adam Ward. And then also, too, continue to pray for Vicki Gardner, who was shot in the back and has survived. And I had read that 50 people gathered last night at the Methodist Church, and they sang hymns and read Bible verses and lit candles. And so, dear listeners, prayer works, and we need to pray for everyone involved and surrounded that just tragic situation in Virginia. So please continue and ramp up the prayers, and thank you in advance for praying. Okay, we moving on to some more calls?
Why don't we? We've got plenty of them. Joseph in Mobile, listening on Archangel Radio, AM 1410. Joseph, thank you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. What is your take on Mass on Sunday?
Well, I can't go to Mass anymore because I am disabled. My spine's broken 2 places. I can't control part of my bodily functions because of cancer. I have severe congestive heart failure. I can still get around a little, but I can't sit down any longer than about 20 minutes, and I have to get up because of where my lower spine is broken. It's excruciating pain. Sit down, stand up, lay down, it's the same thing. And I miss Mass now. I will admit it, I miss Mass, and for the strangest reasons. But I have missed Mass. But my biggest thing is that the Catholic Channel in Alabama has a 7 a.m. Mass, and then they replay it twice a day. And then on Sundays they have the handicap Mass, which I take part in. And the thing that bugs me is the homilies are never long enough. I'm 70 years old. I can call you kid.
Oh, thanks, Joseph. That makes me feel good.
I grew up in the 50s and early 60s with homilies that lasted at least 20 minutes.
Right.
The church has a group of homilists that go around. They don't come to Alabama that I know of. And they only came to Little Flower one time in all the years. And I was raised in Little Flower. My family helped found Little Flower in 1926 when it was a missions church. So I was raised there, but I don't think that there is no good excuse to miss Mass. I mean, I don't hold myself up as a shining light because I'm not, believe me. And if my wife was alive, she'd tell you that. But I just can't understand why the younger people miss Mass when I yearn to go and can't.
Right.
Yeah, Joseph, let me jump in there because as you're talking, and Debbie probably shares this sentiment in her heart as well. First of all, our hearts go out to you, just for your health conditions and so forth, and be assured of our prayers and the prayers of all Take Two with Jerry and Debbie listeners. As I'm hearing you talk, Joseph, I'm hearing someone who is literally at Mass all the time, because as we said at the start of the show, Mass is not only about having, the heavenly hosts of angels surrounding the altar and really present at the celebration of Mass. It's about being at the foot of the cross, because what is Mass? It is a representation of the once-for-all sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. And another thing that my pastor emphasizes all the time from the altar, he says, people, please, when I'm offering the chalice and the paten to the Lord, the consecrated body and blood of Christ, he says, put yourself here. Put your worries, your troubles, your health issues, your sacrifice. Place them here along with the one perfect sacrifice, which is Jesus Christ. So, Debbie, I just hear in Joseph a soul that is very much in union with God. I hope, Joseph, you said you got the TV Mass. Do you have anyone who brings you communion on occasion?
Pius X in Mobile, which is down in the middle of Mobile, and I now live up in quite a distance from there now. But there is a very good priest, and he brings me communion. And when he can't bring it, I have a friend that brings it, and that's the only time I get communion.
Well, Joseph,
I've lately been getting I forget what you call it, where they for sick people and people that may die.
Yeah, anointing.
Anointing.
Yeah, I had a severe head injury. The doctor at the hospital asked me why I was still alive, and of course I couldn't answer that, but at the time, and I now know it's Jesus Christ. And I used to be a cafeteria Catholic. After communion, which I adore, by the way. I kneeled down and I was a cafeteria Catholic. And then one day at Mass, I had a voice, an internal voice came to me and stated, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be thanking the Lord for this. And from that day on, I stopped being a cafeteria Catholic.
Amen, Joseph. Joseph, let me just share something. You said earlier, if your wife was alive, she may not, sing those praises at times. But I have to tell you, Joseph, today you're our hero. You really are. You are definitely our hero for today. And I just want to say thank you for your beautiful words, your kind words, your words of gratitude for our faith. You're the reason why so many of us try so very hard to help raise funds for EWTN TV and radio and Catholic radio. And I know you're listening on Archangel Radio. That's why we try so hard, because, Joseph, you are the reason. And how beautiful is that? So we just want to say thank you. You're our hero for today. Thanks for calling in. Please pray for us. Your prayers are truly being heard, because you're so close to Jesus right now with all your suffering. And so thank you. Thank you for calling in. Wow, Jerry, this is just a beautiful, beautiful topic and beautiful day. And I see we have one of our clergy on the line from Pennsylvania, and I'm excited. Father Jason from Pennsylvania listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Father Jason.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just driving along here listening to your show and enjoying it very much. And I heard just before the break, a caller was speaking about the sign of peace at Mass.
Uh-huh.
And that's something kind of important to me. And there was actually the Vatican issued a document last summer about the sign of peace to clear up misconceptions about it and really kind of to rein it in a little bit. I think most people missed that memo.
Mm-hmm. Could you share it with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, it said basically that the sign of peace in the Roman Rite was never about, that passage from Matthew where it said if you have something against your brother, leave your gift at the altar and then go reconcile. That was not what it was about, but it was about the offer of peace by Jesus first at the Last Supper and then in the upper room. So it has more to do with the resurrection of the Lord. And so in the context of the Roman Mass, it was always in the solemn high Mass in the past, but currently it's completely at the discretion of the priest and really is sort of to be limited much more than it is. Very often you see it done at every Mass. But the Vatican then came in and said, first of all, that the gesture that's used should not be a common gesture like a handshake. It should be something that is sacred and different from regular common life. And also that there were times that it said it was completely not appropriate, such as at Christmas, where people are getting together and it's going to become a greeting and, have a good holiday, Merry Christmas. And it says at funerals, where it becomes, rather than a sign of the resurrection, a time to offer condolences. It listed weddings, where it becomes a time for congratulations. And we lose the focus on what the sign of peace really is. And so they said, well, if there should be a time of catechesis, and maybe we need to kind of rein it back a bit until we really understand what we're doing, because we've really kind of missed the point. And I know myself, I'm pastor of a parish and also host of my own radio show on another station. But I was a school minister for many years, and it became a time of mass confusion for the students. It was just loud and noisy until we realized, well, this is completely optional. And the ministers in the archdiocese said, well, why don't we just try omitting it, which is a completely legitimate option. And we did, and it changed the whole tone of what we're doing, really, because it's a time right before the Eucharist, and it's really more about, as I said, the resurrection of the Lord, and the Mass really more about the book of Revelation, and as you said, the heavenly hosts and the choir of angels, and the saints all celebrating the heavenly liturgy. It's really a very beautiful thing, and I think with some catechesis, maybe we can come to a time when we do it correctly and well.
Yeah, Father Jason, first of all, thank you for your vocation. You may or may not know I have an apostolate called Vocation Boom, and we encourage men to become priests. So I just want Debbie will join me, I know, in offering a huge, huge thank you for your yes to God. Thank you for kind of adjusting my comments on that. I brought in that if you've got something against your brother, leave it before you go to the altar. I don't know where that thought came from. I shared it. I'm glad you corrected me on that. Thank you, and the way you clarified the whole thing here. And I had forgotten, actually, that the sign of peace was optional. So, Father Jason, Debbie, I don't know if you've got anything for Father as well.
Well, I'm just so glad, Father Jason, that you called in, and thank you for, like Jerry said, for clarifying that and, clearing that up for us. The other thing I wanted to just quickly share is that you said you were driving, and it sounds really quiet, so I wasn't even going to ask you if you had your seatbelt on or hands-free, but you do, right, Father?
In the passenger seat.
Oh, you're in the past. Oh,
that's my seatbelt is on. Thank you.
Yay! Okay, so and Father, it was really interesting because as you were speaking, I thought to myself, boy, he is a great teacher and he has a great voice. And then you shared that that's exactly what you do. You're on radio.
I have a radio show on Radio Maria.
Wow, beautiful. Yes. And your parish? Do you want to share what parish you're at?
Sure. I'm pastor of Holy Martyrs Parish in Orland, Pennsylvania.
Wow, how exciting.
I've been pastor there for just over 2 months now.
Wow.
Very cool. So you must be getting excited that our Holy Father is coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And my during the World Meeting of Families, my real contribution, I'm going to be celebrating the High Mass, the Latin High Mass on Thursday evening. We're going to be having a Latin Mass every day during this convention, and I'll be there Thursday night at this Holy Redeemer Church in the city. So,
well, Father Jason, sorry to interrupt you. Debbie and I and a few others on our team with Vocation Boom and my company, Third Millennium Media, we're going to be at the World Meeting of Families. So,
wonderful.
What was that parish again where you're going to be having the Solemn High Mass?
Oh, it's going to be at Holy Redeemer. It's the Chinese Catholic Church on Vine Street.
Okay.
It's half a mile from the convention center.
Oh, wonderful. We will make it a point to come for Mass, and we'll say hello when we get there.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing you. I'll look you up at the convention center.
All right. God bless you, Father Jason. Thanks for calling.
You.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie. Real quick break. Peggy, Tim, Aileen, we've got your calls and your takes on Do You Know Where You Are at Mass on Sunday. Coming up next, our number, we have a line open, 800-585-9396. When we come back, too, we've been forgetting social media blowing up. We're going to read a couple of the comments on our Facebook page and from elsewhere. A lot of you have your takes to share on this whole idea of being fully present and participating at Sunday Mass.
One of the most terrifying experiences in life is teaching your teenager to drive. My daughter has this tendency to focus her attention right on the hood of the car. You see, she thinks that by focusing on the car itself, she'll keep it going in the right direction. Of course, there's no surer way to crash. Thankfully, she's slowly getting it. You only get where you want to go by fixing your eyes far ahead of your car. When you do that, you end up steering in the right direction. That's why worship is so important. We need a focal point that's far beyond ourselves to give us perspective and to keep our lives heading in the right direction. That focal point is the majesty and greatness of God. Try starting each day with your favorite worship song. And when you pray, don't just ask for stuff. You might end up more stressed than when you started because you sat in the presence of your problems and forgot the greatness of God. This is Chris Stefanik from reallifecatholic.com.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We are excited you're with us. This is a hot topic today. We're talking about where are you on Sundays? Are you present? Are you really aware of what you are participating in, what you are experiencing? Or are you kind of, zoning out or getting distracted? Well, let's turn to social media and just see what some of our listeners and supporters are saying. Well, like Mel is saying, we have 3 young kids and we attend Mass every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, depending on work schedule. It is hard to stay focused because of our kids, but we believe we are still receiving God's grace and receiving His body and blood. Yes, Mal, absolutely, because, God knows, the fact that we're making that effort to, get our children dressed, get them ready for Mass, try to, maintain a sense of peace in the pew with our families, especially when, you have 3 young kids, Mel. It's interesting because you do get distracted. It's just, children are not going to sit still. It's difficult for them to. Although I will tell you, I have to say, my 2 boys, I have to tell you, they were amazing at Mass. My youngest would fall asleep the moment he walked into Mass, and he would wake up the moment we were leaving. It was hysterical. In fact, the pastor used to say to my youngest, "Okay, time for you to go to sleep," because he would actually just fall asleep. It was so funny. And my oldest was just really attentive, and so I was very blessed and fortunate to have. But I can understand that children, get distracted. The one thing I would encourage, and this is my own little pet peeve. I have to say this. If you do have young children or you're bringing your grandchildren, please, 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 if you're going to give them something to, this is just my personal suggestion, if you're going to give them something to, occupy their time and keep them calm, please don't give them keys. I have seen that so many times where a grandparent will throw, their car keys at their young child and or food, and the child is clanging the keys along the pews, the wood pews, or eating food, and you start seeing Cheerios, start rolling down the aisle. I mean, if you can refrain from that, that would be helpful. I'll tell you what's really great. There are some children's soft-sided missiles or, explaining the Mass, the parts of the Mass. And they're beautiful teaching tools for very young children. And that would be my recommendation. I know, though, some pastors even say don't even bring anything in. So you have to, see what's right for your parish. Okay. I said my piece, Jerry.
Sure did. Folks, listen to Mother Debbie, all right? 800-585-9396. Right back to your calls. Peggy is in Texas listening on Sirius XM 130. Peggy, you are up next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Sure.
It's been a really interesting listen to today. Thank you for having this.
You bet.
Thank you.
What I was wanting to say, I tell people, they'll say, oh, I get so distracted. I said, well, when you are, sometimes God is talking to you through that distraction. Like I'd be praying for something or to understand something, and all of a sudden I get an answer through the words of the readings or through the sermon. So being distracted is pretty, I think is a way that God's talking to you sometime. Mm-hmm. And also, we don't do the sign of the peace at our church. We have a mission church, a Divine Mercy, at Canyon Lake right outside of San Antonio. And since we are a mission church, and also what Father had said before me, he just turns to us and says the words, but we don't break up because we feel that this is a very solemn time and we don't want to break up that time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that great take. Yeah, Debbie, I think there are a lot of times in our lives when distractions can be blessed distractions. I don't know. I'm not sure about during Mass. I mean, certainly God would want us to be, fully conscious, Debbie, fully participating and so forth. But, there's really no way of getting around the fact that whether it's, a holy distraction or, have I paid this bill or where am I going to get my, kid's child school tuition or something. These kinds of things are going to come upon us during Mass. I think the whole idea is to just enter as deeply as we can into the sacred mysteries.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Jerry. But Mass it's just an amazing opportunity to receive God's grace and God's mercy and God's we can feel God's voice, and that is a beautiful place to be. And so I appreciate, Peggy, for your take on it, because it actually gave me a different way to look at distractions, and I appreciate that. Jerry, I want to just share something. This show moves way too fast. I'm going to complain right now. Way too fast. I can already look at the clock, and we're not going to get to all the calls, and we're not even going to get to all the social media. So we have to keep this conversation going, and we can do it by Twitter, Facebook, EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page, take2show.com. Let's keep the conversation growing because, see, I slipped there, but that was a good slip. Growing, that's right. That's what I meant. Let's keep it going so we can grow, and that's what we want to do here at Take Two. So, dear listeners, we appreciate all of your takes on this. This is helping all of us right now. And I know, can we go to Aileen in Greeley, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio? Hi, Aileen. You have been waiting so patiently.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I am just, I'm very new to Catholic radio. I'm just starting to listen to it more and more, and I just felt prompted to call. And it's just for something really simple that I've been doing for many, many years, and it was after reading Scott Hahn's The Supper of the Lamb and hearing some of his talks, how he says, and you said, Debbie, this is when heaven touches earth during the consecration, during the whole Eucharistic liturgy. And what I do now is what he said. Actually, what he says is the closest that we will ever be to heaven on earth is at the consecration.
Mm-hmm.
It's when heaven and earth meet. And so what I do at the Holy Holy, when we recite the Holy Holy, is I physically take a step with my foot. And it's like I have one foot in heaven and one foot on earth. And it's just it's just like, it's a physical action. It stimulates my thoughts, and it helps me to put my frame of mind where it needs to be at that point. And that's just all I wanted to share.
Well, Aileen, thank you for that. And I just want to say Scott Hahn is in very good company if he's being mentioned in the same breath as Debbie Georgianni. So Scott would be happy about that. But Scott's a good friend of both of ours. So thank you, Aileen, for that. But yeah, Debbie, this is good. She brings up a fascinating point that I wish we had time to develop. Maybe we'll do a show on this another time. But our gestures, our movements,
that's right.
That's why we sit, stand, kneel, sit. Some people say, oh, that's just so goofy. Why do we do all these things? There's a reason why we physically, Debbie, participate at Mass. We don't just walk in, sit down, 60 minutes later, grab communion and go, but our physical gestures and the things that we do really, truly have meaning and help us enter more fully into the sacrifice.
I agree wholeheartedly. Aileen, your call was amazing because I visually was, thinking of stepping forward and that movement. And I love what you said about how it, just brings you into that moment. And that is so important to really be conscious of our demeanor during Mass and our movements and how we participate and how we assist during the beautiful celebration of the Mass. And wow, this is a great show again by you, dear listeners. My takeaway, Jerry, I have to share it. I'm going to start reminding people to say, I get to go to Mass, not I have to go to Mass. Your takeaway?
Well, you always get to go first on the takeaway. That's not fair, because then, sometimes you might steal my takeaway.
Borrow
Tomorrow
with permission.
I get to go first, okay? Yeah.
Okay, deal.
My takeaway, there could be so many, but I just find that, Debbie, once again, I just have to brag on the listeners of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Every show, I'm just literally blown away by the spiritual desire, the hunger, the spiritual maturity of those of you who listen to this program. So thank you for really, truly edifying us today. And for those that we're not going to be able to get to, apologies. But Debbie, we have a great show coming up tomorrow that both you and I just can't wait for.
Oh, it's amazing. Bible Basics. We've got our guest tomorrow. You are going to love her. I could talk to her all day long. Sonia Corbett, the author of the Unleashed series. So you want to tune in tomorrow and catch Sonia. She'll be with us all hour, and it's all about the Bible. PursuingTheSummit.com. That's Sonia Corbett if you want to look it up, or at Third Millennium Media if you want to take a look at how you can book her. But until then, Jerry and I want to wish you a beautiful, beautiful, and blessed day.